All right, Matt. So yesterday I was at Walmart and I was buying a big bag of dog food for the dogs.
Yeah.
And I'm in the checkout line and the lady behind me, she goes, "Oh, do you have a dog?" And I'm thinking, why else would I have a big bag of dog food? But you know me, I'm a smart aleck. So I said, well, actually, no, I'm restarting the dog food diet. It's like, I probably shouldn't because I ended up in the hospital last time, but I lost 50 pounds in a month, but I did wake up in an intensive care unit, had, tubes coming out of it. So I probably shouldn't do it, but it's easy. All you do is you walk around with dog food in all your pockets. And when you get hungry, you just pull out a piece of dog food, pop it in your mouth, chew it, and go on about your business. Quick way to lose weight. And she goes, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." Now, all the people in the line at this point had kind of caught on to my story, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, did the dog food make you sick or something?" I said, "No. I actually got hit by a car when I stepped off the curb to sniff a poodle's butt." Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. You sniffed any poodle butts lately?
Not today.
All right, well, that's good. Keep you safe that way. Before we get into it, we'll say go over to patreon.com/Graveyard Tales and sign up to become a patron. We have multiple different levels that you can sign up for. Everybody gets a bonus episode. If you're a $5 or $10 a month, you get ad-free main episodes plus the bonus episode. And if you're $10 a month, you get our side quest episode where we do a little bit of everything. Sometimes it's a quiz. Sometimes I show Matt crazy videos. Sometimes we talk about personal things that are going on in our lives. If we take a trip or we do something cool, which doesn't happen often because me and Matt are kind of boring, but occasionally we do. And so we like to tell you when we do something cool. But it's a fun place if you want to hear me and Matt in a different format than you would on Graveyard Tales. You got to go check out SideQuest. We're a little freer with the language. We talk more like we would if we're sitting down having a beer with each other. So it's fun. Now, you'll have to excuse me for this episode. I'm going to go ahead and say, I have been on vacation for a week. I have been in the lovely state of Florida getting sun and sand and salt. And I am just, Matt, I don't know if I can do this. This is, it's fun, but I don't know if my brain's back in work mode yet or not.
I know, it's so hard.
You might have to direct me and go, Adam, you say this now.
We got to stay on topic.
Right? Thank goodness I have notes. But also go check out our sponsors. If we have sponsors on an episode, we will put the links to their websites plus our promo codes in the show notes. You can go get you something cool. Matt and I only do the ads that we feel strongly about the service or the product. So if we talk about it, we like it and we've used it.
Exactly.
So go in there, check it out, get you a discount on something cool. All right, Matt. On that note, I'm excited to get into this episode because I have personal experience with this. So why don't you tell us, what are we talking about tonight, brother?
So tonight we check out another old haunted home. This one, and much like a lot of these really old haunted homesteads, it predates the Civil War.
Yep.
And of course, the Civil War is going to play a factor into why this place is haunted. But the history and the hauntings are just so rich for this place. And we're talking about the McRaven House in Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
And as Adam mentioned at the top of the show, he just had the opportunity to visit.
I sure did.
McRaven House. So he has shared a little bit with me, but not also what anything that he shares about his visit tonight. It will be the first time I'm hearing it as well.
Right. Yeah, I intentionally kept it from Matt, and that's been difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine. You know, Adam can't sit on anything for very long.
No.
You know?
No. I'm that way with presents, Matt. If I buy a present for somebody, I'm like, if I have to either hide it from myself or I end up giving it to somebody early. Like I'll get Ashley a present for Christmas a month before, and for a whole month, I'm going, do you want your present now? Do you want your present now?
Because you're so excited.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I'm kind of that way too. But yeah, you know, when you're trying to share or hold on to information that you want to share so badly, that's really tough. But as Adam's getting all this firsthand as I'm, reading and learning about the McRaven House, it does have, some deep, really, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not unlike other antebellum homes that have paranormal activity, but this one just seems like everybody associated with this house at some point decided that they weren't ready to leave when they died.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
And the fact that, I say this quite a bit, when you get a haunting where you have, what I refer to as named spirits, and these are not nicknames that staff and caretakers have given to these spirits.
Right.
They believe that these are the spirits of these actual people that lived in the house, throughout the decades.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's so much about the hauntings that are characteristic of that individual, that it convinces investigators and staff that this has got to be this person's spirit based on what we know about them while they were alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty fascinating. So Adam, why don't you dig into the history of the McRaven House?
All right. So as we always say, go check our sources down at the bottom of the show notes. You can find where we found all this information. And I even put in there the McRaven House history tour because I took that. So if you want to dive into it more, go check our sources. Everything we talk about, we have sourced and documented in our sources section of the show notes. Plus, you can also take a trip to Vicksburg. And I promise you, if you like history or you like the paranormal, you are going to love that tour. That's a creepy house. But I don't know how to really say it, Matt. The house is super unique. It is, you think about it, and this house, when I get into the history, you'll go, wait, that's different. And it really is, because the house, when you walk through it, it has very distinct sections, and we'll get into why that is. Now, the McRaven House gets its name from the street that it was originally located on, and it was formerly called McRaven Street in Vicksburg, Mississippi. But the street has changed names, and it's now known as Harrison Street.
Okay.
But a lot of old homes like this, they kind of go off that naming system. So the original name of the street that it was on, rather than the family that built it or the family that owned it. Sometimes you get that. Mm-hmm. But if you get a house like the McRaven House, which has had so many different owners who have done so many unique things to the home, they name it after the street, the original street name. Now, early in its history, the house was called the Bob House, but, the current name, like I said, is from the street rather than any individual. So if you look it up, you're going to be able to look up the McRaven House and get all the history. Don't look up the Bob House with
the Bob House.
Bob House with 3 B's. I don't know what you'll get if you look that up. Now,
yeah, that was kind of weird too. I've never seen that spelling.
Yeah, B-O-B-B, not B-B-O-B. If somebody was thinking, how does this have 3 B's?
Yeah,
it's
right.
2 B's on the end, not B-B-O-B.
I've seen like Rob spelled that way.
Yeah.
As a last name, but I've never seen the Bob.
Right.
Spelled like a bobber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I could think about was bobber or bobbit. But then I thought about bobbit and I went, I got to wipe that memory from my mind. I don't want to think about that.
We have young listeners that are like, what the heck is he talking about?
I just watched a documentary of it on vacation. So it's fresh in my mind, believe it or not. So yeah.
Ah, okay.
The horrendous feelings. Anyway, now let's look at the origins, like the early construction of it. The oldest portion of the McRaven House dates back to 1797. So it's actually the oldest building in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's even older than the state of Mississippi itself. This house was there before Mississippi became a state. So the oldest portion of the house, the first portion, is called the Pioneer section. And it was constructed by Andrew Glass, who built a 2-room brick structure as a kind of way station at the time. But let's look at Andrew Glass real quick. Now, folklore and local stories have described Glass as a highwayman or bandit. And it's said that he would rob travelers along the Natchez Trace and then return to his home to hide his loot. Now, what I got from the history tour, he was actually looting French travelers along the Natchez Trace, and he would then retreat to Spanish territory. So they couldn't get him because he's back in Spanish territory. The French can't come in there and get him for robbing their people. Well,
no extradition at
exactly.
that time.
Right. No extradition at the time. So the way the French territory got him to stop is France finally just gave in and they said, look, here, we're going to offer you land and building materials and a small monetary sum if you will leave the French travelers alone. Here's land, put a house on it, here's some money, just leave the French travelers alone. So he wisely accepted that offer. He said, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. And when you look at the design of his house, it kind of shows that he was a cautious, paranoid guy because his bedroom is sitting above the kitchen. So it's a long, narrow building, this section of the house, with the kitchen on the bottom floor, the bedroom and living quarters up top. What he did is he did not build a staircase into this house. So the only way to get up to that second floor was from a rope ladder that he made. So he would climb up into the house and then pull the rope ladder up.
Yeah.
Right, so that he couldn't get ambushed in the middle of the night. Well, the funny thing is, believe it or not, Matt, this did not stop his looting of the French.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I'm so surprised.
It stopped it for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, probably in the time that he was building the house, he couldn't go loot. But, yeah, he was still a highwayman even after that. Now, in 1836, the property was actually purchased by Sheriff Stephen Howard. Now, he expanded the house in the Empire architectural style, adding a dining room, a bedroom, and a 2-story covered porch on each side of the house. Now, tragedy struck that same year because Mary Elizabeth Howard, Stephen's young wife, died of complications during childbirth in the new middle bedroom area. Now, there's one reason that somebody might haunt that place.
Exactly.
And many of her personal artifacts still remain at the McRaven House. So this new expansion just built onto the side of the Pioneer section and left the Pioneer section in the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got two different sections of this house with two different building styles and two different designers. And you can even tell by looking at the outside bricklaying of the house that it was built in two different eras.
Yeah. That'd be like me going, yeah, I'm going to put an addition on my house. Can you build like a Victorian style addition on my ranch style house?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'd be like, we can.
Yeah. Are you
Do you
sure?
really want us to do that?
Are you sure that's what you want?
No, I'd like big Victorian columns in the front.
Yeah, right. Well, see, then it moves on because John H. Bob, where the original Bob House name came from, he acquired the house in 1849, and he added the third section, the Greek Revival style section, which had what they call an elegant parlor, a master bedroom, a men's changing area, a flying wing staircase, and a whole new front facade to the house. So during the siege of Vicksburg, which happened in 1863, McRaven became a Confederate field hospital. So it sheltered wounded soldiers, and it made it through artillery blast. But this is actually the biggest reason that the McRaven House still stands today. Because during the siege of Vicksburg, thousands of cannonballs were shot into the city, which destroyed buildings everywhere, up and down the blocks and everything. Well, because this was a hospital and there was still the decorum during war that you don't attack hospitals, the cannonballs were directed around the building, sort of. Some still hit the house, but oopsie daisy, we hit the house.
That's right.
Now, there was actually one cannonball that was lodged in the wall of this new section, and it stayed there for many, many decades. And it was finally removed in the mid to late 1900s. Now, when the powder in a cannonball, you're thinking it's just a solid ball, but a lot of these balls were hollow with black powder in them. Mm-hmm. So that they would kind of blow up when they hit. Well, if these balls don't blow up when they hit, like the one that was in the wall, then it just sank into the wall. And all the owners just left it. Bob left it and kind of did stuff around it, but left this cannonball in the wall. And
because even then he thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Even then he's like, well, this tells a story.
Yeah.
But when the powder that's in these cannonballs sits for a long time, it slowly degrades into nitroglycerin.
Oh, that could be bad.
Yeah. So any small shake can actually cause this cannonball to explode. Well, somehow, over the decades, it didn't blow up. And I mean, a lot of stuff happened in this house after the Civil War. So it's amazing that it didn't blow up. But then the crew that removed it, they carefully removed the ball from the wall and they got it into a vehicle and was taking it down the street. Mm-hmm. When they got to the end of the street, the nitroglycerin detonated.
Holy crap.
It made it away from the house before it blew up. Somehow in all the years that it was in this wall, it didn't blow up. So the guides at the McRaven House actually think that the spirits saved the house. And this was one way that they saved the house.
Now that's a pretty awesome story.
Right?
How in the world though? Surely they if they were that careful removing it, they knew there was a potential for this thing
to
explode. Don't
Yep.
they just pitch it in the back of a pickup? I mean, they didn't secure it in any way?
I think they had it in a box, like a bomb box or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't kill anybody when it exploded.
Good.
But it did detonate in this box at the end of the street.
That's nuts.
Right?
You know?
Right? I don't know. But it was crazy. I heard that story on the tour and I couldn't believe it. They still have in the house, they have a fake cannonball in the wall where that hole was, where they removed it. So you can see exactly where it landed in the house. And it's amazing nobody was killed.
Yeah. I mean, even after they took it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being that driver sitting there in that truck and then boom, boom. I mean, that would scare the living crap out of you.
Talk about having skid marks. They'd be all in my pants at that point.
Or the car that's behind them.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And do you see that bomb box just go,
yeah,
like,
the car just bounces and That was before the times of crazy stereo systems, because now it'd be like, man, that guy's got a killer sub in that. I want one of them. That downbeat hit and his car jumped. Now, the property that the McRaven House is on, it remains strategically important because of its proximity to the railroad. And as we've talked before about a lot of old towns, the railroad was super important.
Yeah.
And Union soldiers actually occupied this area for 12 years after the Civil War ended. And John Bob, the owner of the house at the time, after the Civil War, they made everybody in the Confederacy sign declarations to become part of the U.S. again. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to venture outside of your city at all, you had to sign this waiver, pledge your allegiance to the United States, not the Confederacy, and all that. Well, John Bob kind of did it, but he was still angry about the Civil War and all that. Well, in 1864, John Bob was actually fatally shot by Union troops because of some altercation he had. Now, John Bob caught Union troops picking fruit off of one of his trees. One of these being U.S. soldier Sergeant William Anderson of the 46 USCI. So what did John Bob do? He grabbed a brick and he threw it at him and probably yelled some obscenities and told him to stay off of his fruit trees. Well, they didn't like that. They didn't take too kindly to the brick throwing.
I can imagine.
These troops jumped John Bob, beat him, drug him 100 yards into the woods over the railroad tracks, just beyond and 100 yards. And they killed him for standing up for his property and all that. Now, this event is talked about a lot in Vicksburg, and it's tied to the Reconstruction era of Vicksburg. So you'll hear this story a lot if you take any history tours of Vicksburg or if you take the McRaven House tour. And they tell it better than I do, but, this is like 42nd hand that I'm telling it to you. So
if you ever catch soldiers eating fruit off of your fruit trees, don't throw bricks at them.
Right.
This is bad.
GYT PSA, once again. Don't throw bricks at troops.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll end up getting you dragged 100 yards into the woods and shot. So now let's look at the Murray family. So following the death of John Bob, his widow sold the home in 1869. Now in the 1870s, the Murray family moved in, becoming the longest residence that the McRaven House had. William Murray, who was a wounded Union veteran and machinist, raised his family there. So the house saw 5 family members die within its walls, including William and his wife Ellen. Now, the house was retained by the remaining daughters, Ella and Annie, until the 1960s. And by this time, the house had kind of fallen into disrepair. You know, it wasn't looking its best. Well, William Murray, originally a Union soldier, he got wounded during the Battle of Shiloh, and he is said to have walked with a cane as a result of his injuries. Well, after the war, he settled in Vicksburg and worked as an inventor and machinist, and his social status improved further because he married Ellen Flynn, who belonged to a prominent local family. Now, William and Ellen Flynn Murray had a large family. They had 9 children in total. So that's almost as many as Matt has.
Right.
You know, we're going to say stuff like that, Matt, and people are actually going to think you have 18 children.
I know. It's like I need my own reality TV show.
Yeah, right. The Rudolphs. That would be a good. That'd be a good show. I'd watch it. All
the daggum reindeer.
Yeah,
you know,
I'd watch it, man.
Pooping everywhere.
Now, they experienced a lot of tragedy because they lost 2 of their 5 sons in childbirth. A lot of people think that's due to yellow fever, but they raised the surviving 4 daughters and 3 sons in the McRaven House. Now, their daughters, Ella and Annie Murray, like I said, both survived a bout of yellow fever as teenagers, and actually that's a fact that was celebrated within the family because a portrait was made of them, and it's still displayed in the house's parlor today. So you can see this picture that they had done of them. Now, McRaven truly became the, quote, forever home for the Murray family because of them living and dying within these walls. William Murray died in the house in 1911. Ellen followed in 1921. Daughter Ida died there in 1946, and 1 son passed away in 1950. Now, after those losses, Ella and Annie lived reclusively. So they didn't marry, they didn't have kids, they didn't go out and talk to people, and they actually shunned a lot of modern conveniences. The only modern convenience they had was a telephone in the house. During their later years, like I said, the house fell into severe disrepair, and the sisters even started chopping up antique furniture for firewood because they didn't have heat, they didn't have AC, didn't have electricity, they didn't have running water. This house still had one of the old ice boxes when these sisters were living. And that's one of those that you put the block of ice on top, and then the cold air drops down into the, quote, refrigerator part. And had to explain all this to Michael when we were looking at it because he knew that there was such a thing as an ice box, but he wasn't exactly sure how they worked.
Right.
And so the tour guide was nice and explained it to him, you know. Well, the ice company in Vicksburg actually continued to make ice blocks for Ella and Annie even after this company moved away from that and started making ice cubes and stuff for sale. Ella and Annie had the last working ice box in Vicksburg. So this company would still make them blocks of ice and still deliver it to them whenever they needed it. So they kept the ice block in business. Now, the house didn't get running water and a bathroom until like 1984-ish.
Wow.
It's only had running water and a bathroom for about 40 years, as old as this house is. They still used an outhouse while they were living.
Well, they were tied to that. With no modern convenience, really.
Right. And it actually made a lot of people in the neighborhood in the area kind of think of them weird. You know, they were like, are they witches? What's wrong with these people?
Because they'd be like, have you seen the toilet?
Right.
Have you seen the toilet?
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what a bathtub is, lady?
Yeah. I'm like,
and she's like, oh yeah, it's this little chair that I sit in and I pour hot water. No, turn a knob. Yeah, you got to think somebody went to them and went, look, I have a magic poop flushing chair that I can sell you. You poo into it, hit a button, and it goes bye-bye. Yeah. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But Ella died in 1960 at age 81. So Annie then moved to a nursing home. She sold McRaven after nearly a century of family ownership. Now, at that time, they say the house was barely recognizable. You know, the neighbors said, this doesn't look like the same house that we knew. You know, it was almost fully overgrown and hidden from view. They had vines and shrubs that had grown up all sides of the house, and the only spot without vines was the front door. So all of the upstairs porches and everything just covered with vines. And it looked like just a big pile of vines over this whole house. Probably kudzu, because this is the South. So
in Mississippi? Shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I lived in Mississippi for a brief period of time. If you stood still long enough, you'd have kudzu on you. Somebody told me one time when I was down there, they said it ought to be the state flower.
Yeah. You know, after visiting there, I agree. I agree. There's more kudzu than anything else. But O.E. Bradway actually purchased the house, and he began restoration in 1960. And he actually opened McRaven to tours in 1961. So the house has since changed ownership quite a few times, and each person that owned it brought new rounds of restoration and preservation to the home. And it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1979, and it was later featured in National Geographic as the, quote, time capsule of the South, due to its blend of architectural styles. The frontier style from 1797, the empire style from 1836, and the Greek revival from 1849. And like I said, walking through it, you can sure see the differences in the areas. They've built on each time, but the new owners especially have kept it looking original. So today, the McRaven House kind of functions as a museum and a historic tourist attraction. And the current owners, Dr. and Mrs. Reed, reopened it to the public in 2015. So there's guided tours that highlight the architectural evolution and all the stories of the past residents. And it's celebrated for its period-appropriate furnishings, Civil War connections, and reputation as Mississippi's most haunted house due to generations of reported paranormal experiences. I actually got the owner's phone number, so I'm going to try to contact her, and maybe we can have her on an episode later on down the line to discuss some of this. But before Matt takes over, two things that the guide told me. One, and the cool thing was it was just me, Ashley, and Michael on this tour. They fit us in between different tours because we were, only there for a short time. And we said, can we do this? Ashley talked to him and said, my husband has a paranormal show that he does with a friend. He's wanting to do this. They couldn't make the ghost tour work, so we just did the history tour. But that was enough. It was good. But he said that things have a way of coming back to the McRaven House. And he showed us several different items that had been sold off, stolen from an owner in the past, and they've come back. So you've got stuff from John Bob in the house. You've got stuff from Andrew Glass in the house. And it just will show up. Somebody will go, oh, hey, this has McRaven House written on it. Do y'all want it for the museum? Oh, this has Andrew Glass's name on it. Would you like to have it back for the museum?
That's weird.
Yeah. Tell me how that stuff that has been gone for 75 years just turns up and comes back to the house.
Yeah, I
But
mean, this would be stuff that like somebody would have gotten either at an antique shop
Mhm.
or just handed down. Like, it was given to another family member who
Yep.
gave it to a family member by marriage or
one
something.
of the sisters sold it.
And they're just like, that they die. And this is like, I found this, my grandmother died and I found this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the odds of that happening once are pretty incredible, but multiple times?
I know. But the guide said, we think that the spirits protect this house and protect the artifacts in this house. And before you get into the personal experience and ghost stories, one that the guide told me that I'll tell you real quick to set it up for you. One day in the 1980s, there was a burglar that broke into the McRaven house. He climbed up and went in the second floor patio door. When the cops got there, because alarm went off and all that, he was actually cowering on the floor of the upstairs patio. When they asked him what he was doing, because nothing had been stolen, nothing had been broken, he said when he broke into the house, it felt like someone pushed him back outside the door, knocked him down, and sat on him until the police showed up. Because he could not move. He could not move until the police got there. He was struggling to get up, and there was a weight on him, holding him down on the patio until the police showed up. So
I mean, I'm done. I mean, I don't have anything that good. I mean, that's an amazing story.
Maybe I should have saved that for the end. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's perfect. I mean, it really does speak to how this house, it seems like a living, breathing entity.
It sure does,
because of the spirits that are attached. And that's one thing I'm going to get into is this attachment. This is not as much of a, we're just seeing some things replayed. There's plenty of that. But it really does seem like, based on the research, that these spirits are somehow held in this house for whatever reason, whether by their own volition or there's something there that just keeps them there.
Right.
And as Adam mentioned, McRaven House is called the state's most haunted house. But a lot of that is due to the violent and tragic history that covers 2 centuries. And, with this, being built before 1800 and all of these, honestly, characters that lived in this house at some point, the ghosts themselves have become as famous as the house. People that visit, like Adam, just visitors, tourists, paranormal investigators, they have experienced the gambit of paranormal activity. Apparitions, primarily Mr. Bob and Mary Elizabeth. Those are the 2 most common, but there's way more than that. Paranormal investigators have actually captured photos of apparitions, numerous EVPs, and they say dramatic cold spots. Cold spots in a house like this, of this age, are not uncommon, and there's a perfectly logical explanation. But we're talking about spots where the temperature drop is significant.
Right.
More than just a degree or 2.
If it's in the summer in Mississippi, that's notable.
Exactly. And especially when you've got a house that has 3 different sections,
Mm-hmm.
you know that a house of that age is going to have poor insulation.
Right.
It's not going to be able to, even with modern restoration, it's still going to have issues with drafts in the wintertime and with just sweltering heat in the summertime. But can you imagine it being 90 plus degrees outside and then stepping into an area of the house that feels like it's 70 degrees?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Right.
Ghost Adventures, Haunted Towns, all these shows have been there to investigate all this and have had just a huge range of evidence collected. Noises, problems with instruments, shadows moving, lights coming on camera, all this stuff. It all happens. Objects that move on their own. The smell of cigar smoke is very frequently reported, and we're going to talk about that. But the whole, and this speaks to Adam's burglar, the reports of being touched, grabbed, or otherwise physically interacted with by these unseen forces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these things are so common, that the reports just, they go on and on and on. People have visited there. They all come away with some kind of weird story.
Yep. Even the history tour guide talked about that stuff because it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
Like he didn't skim over that and say, oh, well, that's just a ghost story thing. I'll leave it for the spooky ghost story at night. He even talked about the grabbing.
Yeah.
And everything while we were there in specific parts of the house.
Yeah. Now, as I said, Mary Elizabeth Howard, her ghost is considered to be the most active spirit in McRaven. She died in 1836 at age 15, shortly after childbirth, in the home's middle bedroom. Now, her spirit frequently appears to visitors, especially in that bedroom.
Yeah.
Sometimes she is seen on the stairs or in the dining room, but they say that she is friendly, sometimes pats the stomach of pregnant visitors. Can you imagine that?
No thanks.
I not that I would know, but that's got to be one of the most annoying things for a pregnant woman to experience. Is people just touching your belly.
Everybody wanting to touch it. Yeah.
I am not like a standoffish type person, but if I don't know you, don't touch me.
Right. Right.
And people seem to think that's just okay. I don't get
for
that.
For pregnant ladies, I don't Michael has this thing, and this is my son. Okay. Michael has this thing where he comes up and he goes on my stomach.
Yeah.
I freaking hate it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he only does it because of how much I hate it.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
It's now just to annoy Dad. But that's my son, and I hate it when he does that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine I'm walking in Walmart trying to buy something, and somebody just comes up and goes, oh, well, look at the baby in there. Hands off. Even if it's a ghost, keep your hands off my belly.
Yeah. That is not, that's just that's a weird thing people
Ain't
do.
cool, man.
But she's also known to open up cabinet doors, and she interacts with children of visitors, trying to get them to play. Some people even claim that they've had Mary's spirit offer to babysit their children. What?
That's crazy.
What?
How? Like, how?
They were like, oh, well, that nice woman that was dressed in the period clothing asked if we wanted her to babysit.
Yep.
They were like, don't.
Yeah, no, don't let that happen. No. Now,
nothing's going to happen to them, but you're going to come back and be like, where did that lady go? Why are my kids alone?
Right, exactly. Now, since you're talking about this, I'm going to jump in real quick. You said
Okay.
she has a tendency to open cabinet doors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're in that middle bedroom, and the guide is talking, mentions her name, and all of a sudden, the vanity door, which he's standing next to, swings closed. And we all kind of looked, and he just kind of looks over at it, grabs it, and opens it up and keeps talking. So he mentions her name again, and the door closes again. So without looking, he reaches to grab it, and I'm watching this door. He gets close to it. The door moves away from his hand. And then he looks and and grabs it and opens it. And I had to stop him because I said, okay, what's up with that? And he said, all right, well, if she likes the people that are in here, we say she's waving at them by doing this. Yeah. Because she will do this occasionally. Now, if she doesn't like a person, usually a man, she will not do this until they leave the room. And then if it's the women in the room, then she'll do it. And he said, I had a couple men in here one time. They were looking on the other side of the room with their backs turned, and the door was doing it. And the women saw it, and the guy's, oh, whatever, that ain't. So he turned and watched, and it wouldn't do it. As soon as he turned around and left the room, it closed again. And so I start kind of bouncing a little bit on the floor. And he goes, oh, yeah, do that. We've done that. He goes, try it out. And so we kind of walked around. We could never get it to do it. And then all of a sudden it closes again. Ashley has a video of this door closing.
That's awesome.
So you said she closes and opens doors. I witnessed that firsthand. And the craziest thing to me was not that it was closing, because I was like, okay, they can have some thing that does it. It can be the floor. It was the fact that it moved away from his hand when he went to open it again, because it didn't close all the way. It was like 3/4 of the way closed. And when he went to grab it, it moved even further closed. It was like, no, don't grab it yet. And I was like, okay, that's the weird part to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love it. But I heard Adam mention that some of Mary Elizabeth's personal belongings are still there, namely her wedding shawl.
Yeah,
is still in the house.
Yep.
And this is one of those things that if you leave a personal item of a person, it can tie a spirit to a location. You know, it may be something so significant to them that it has the energy to keep them there. And when you combine the emotional trauma surrounding her death, it's understandable why her spirit would linger in McRaven House. I mean, it's like you've got two key things that are keeping her spirit attached to the house.
Yep. And the wedding shawl, something I learned. I'm going to keep interrupting you with stuff I learned.
That's all right.
The wedding shawls at the time were made by the future mother-in-law. So the future mother-in-law would make this shawl for whoever the son was marrying. So if she liked you, it was intricate. If it wasn't, you got like a damn burlap sack to wear around your neck. So it holds a lot of significance.
That's so funny. Can you imagine? It's like, here's your wedding shawl. You're like,
Did
you make this last night?
Yeah, this is old underwear. Why? This wedding shawl that you're mentioning was intricate. Like it is, doilies,
pretty
how
neat,
the doily looked. It looked like that. So it's very intricately made. So apparently the mother-in-law really liked her, and it was very significant to Mary because of that. And it's laying on the bed in a frame in that room.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Andrew Glass, who also is said to haunt the McRaven house. Now, Andrew Glass was the original builder, and this was the highwayman who used to use the house as his hideout when he would rob people along the Natchez Trace. Now, according to the legend, he was murdered by his wife, Mary, who slit his throat with a razor after learning of his infidelity. Now, tour guides claim that his spirit is one of the most malevolent presences in the house, with reports of women feeling unsafe in his old room. He is known for startling visitors and sometimes physically interacting with women, such as grabbing or touching them during tours. Now, reports include people being shoved to the ground. He may have been the one because this guy was coming in the way he used to.
Yeah.
Having pressure applied to their back by an invisible boot.
Yep.
Or being startled in rooms that are associated with glass. With Andrew Glass, not just glass in general.
Yeah, there's glass all over this house. What are you talking
about? But the pressure applied to their back by an invisible boot, that's got to be a reference to your burglar story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine
I did not
so.
hear that until tonight.
Yeah.
And I found this is, several different articles that included this. And I'm like, that's a very specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
To feel like you're being held down by somebody with their boot.
Right.
Standing on top of you. I mean, that's, it's kind of a humiliating thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I could see why somebody that was a former criminal might do that to someone else who they see as a criminal.
Yeah. Coming in to steal my stuff? I don't think so.
Right. Now, let's talk about Mr. Bob with 3 B's, John H. Bob. Now, he is also one of the most frequently encountered ghosts, and it involves the legend. As Adam said, it's a very famous story, told out throughout Vicksburg and in the entire area. But remember, he was the one that owned McRaven House during and after the siege during the Civil War. Now, he was the one that was responsible for the Greek revival section to the mansion. And during the Civil War, when the house survived the siege of Vicksburg, it also served as a Confederate field hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in 1864 was when he was shot by the troops just outside the home. He apparently, like Adam said, he's about 100 yards from his home.
Yep.
Where he died. Guests and staff frequently report seeing his apparition pacing along the balcony. Some visitors report seeing a detailed apparition standing on the porch, and they smell cigar smoke right before they catch this apparition. And the cigar smoke is a very common thing. A lot of guests have reported experiencing this.
Our guide said he's experienced it several times while giving tours, even during the day. This isn't at night. This is during the day.
Yeah.
And apparently there's the men's dressing area right outside the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Because during the time, these women wore big hoop skirts and crazy looking dresses, and it took them forever to get changed. Well, he would go stand out in this waiting area while waiting on his wife to change before bed. He'd have a cigar out there. They've got an opium pipe sitting in there that they said occasionally he would dip into the opium while waiting. But apparently right there in that little dressing area is where you can smell that cigar smoke very prevalently. Now, we didn't smell it, but he was telling us there had been several times that they've been standing out there on a tour, and, they're showing you, oh, this is original glass in the windows from, the early 1800s, and you can tell the difference in the new glass and the old glass. And he's like, we'll be standing here talking about it, and I'll get a, waft of cigar smoke, and other people will look around and go, what is that? And he's like, oh, that's Mr. Bob. And so we've heard about smells in so many experiences that apparently it's a good way for them to communicate. A good sensory thing.
Yeah, and that the way the sense of smell is attached to so many things, emotionally.
Yeah,
it would be a very good way to communicate. Unexplained footsteps are also common occurrences when his apparition appears. So, people will hear these footsteps and be like, what is that? And then they see the apparition. And this usually happens after visiting hours, probably because there's too much going on for people to really notice it.
Yeah.
Or you hear it and you pass it off as, well, that's another tour group or somebody that's a staff member moving around. Now, the last group of residents is William Murray and the Murray sisters. Now, William Murray, as Adam said, he bought the home in 1882, and he and his daughters Ella and Annie lived in isolation there until the mid 20th century. You heard about how different Ella and Annie were.
Yeah.
But apparently the entire family was not just super outgoing. And I can imagine being he was, I don't know. They say he was a very unique individual himself. And, they had all of these children and, here they are they've settled down in Vicksburg. They just weren't the people that were going to be all that neighborly, not
right.
bad, but, they weren't a part of the welcome wagon. When you moved to town, you weren't probably going to get a visit from the Murrays.
Yep. Sounds like me.
They kept to themselves. Yeah.
I'm not a bad neighbor. I just am not going to talk to you every time I see you.
Yeah. That's right.
I might wave if you wave, but otherwise I'm trying to get back inside my house before anybody talks to me.
God, you sound like me. It's just so bad. I know. That's one of the things, I'm not going to stand in my front yard and have a conversation with somebody for an hour.
Yep. And I have one neighbor who likes to stand outside and wait for people to come out so he can talk to them.
Oh, man.
It's this older guy, and I see him out there, and I'm like, well, can't go check the mail yet. So
I gotta wait till he
goes in. Maybe he'll turn his back and I can sneak.
How do I look like I'm in a hurry?
Yeah, right.
I need an apron, and I need to run out. Go, I've got a quiche in the oven.
Yeah. One day I'm just going to run out nude, and he won't, hopefully doesn't talk to me then.
That would definitely get somebody to not talk to you.
Right.
It's just come out there just butt naked and nobody's going to say a word.
Yep. Everybody will walk away.
But you got to remember, all three of these individuals died inside that house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. William Murray, Ella, and Annie. And they said the spirit they associate to William Murray, they do it because they say it actually looks like him. They recognize it as being Mr. Murray.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty detailed apparition. If you can actually recognize it as the person that it is.
Right.
A lot of times it's just, well, we're going to attribute that apparition to this person that lived here. But no, they say they recognize Mr. Murray. The two sisters are also seen occasionally throughout the property, and it says they're typically just maintaining their old routines, like walking to the outhouse.
Yep.
I don't know. I just added that, but I was like, man, I don't want to walk outside.
Yeah.
If I've got to go to the bathroom,
I don't want it to be that cold or that hot if I'm sitting on the toilet.
I think stuff like I would have been terrible at this. But, if you don't know any different, you might have
Yeah.
thought, we have an outhouse.
Right. I don't have to
'cause
poop in
we
the
used
woods.
to go out and crap in the rose garden,
Mhm. I don't have to
Look
dig a
at our
hole.
roses.
I don't have to dig a hole anymore. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Think about how long people had to do that.
Right.
I mean, long time. That was the
Mhm.
routine before somebody came up with that. I think this way's better.
Yeah.
Way better. You have no idea how much better it is. It's right up there with the invention of toilet paper. It's so much better.
Right. The best thing since sliced toilet paper.
But paranormal investigators, they believe that the sorrow surrounding those family deaths in the home keeps the sisters' spirits attached to the house. And when you consider the decades that the Murray sisters spent in isolation, their energy may have created a bond, allowing them to remain strongly attached to the property.
Sure,
But
yeah.
Others feel that, and this is strange because this is what I saw in a couple of articles, but it says the sisters' sudden and unresolved deaths. Well, it doesn't really sound like Ella and Annie had sudden or unresolved deaths. I mean, they lived a long life.
Yeah.
And kind of just died because they were old.
I can't remember which one, but it's in my notes. Moved to the
To a nursing home.
to a nursing home. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was Annie that moved to a nursing
Yeah.
home. So,
Yeah.
and Ella lived till she was 81.
But
So,
some people feel like that their spirits just can't move on. But this is a good example of, is what's written about a haunting, is it really consistent with what
Yeah.
actually happened, or is it overly embellished?
right.
It's not saying that they're not there. I mean, people report seeing these shadowy figures, and they believe that that's related to the sisters. That may very well be true. But, if the story is, well, they lived here a long time and then one of them went to a nursing home, that doesn't really promote a haunting.
Yeah.
That just promotes somebody that lived a long life, was kind of reclusive, and then died in a nursing home.
Yeah.
There's nothing really all that fascinating about it.
Well, and I got to talking to the tour guide about that because we were talking about the different people that live there, and not to step on something you have, but there is a grave on the property of unknown Confederate soldiers that were found after the Civil War.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he said, well, did you get any responses or anything out at the grave on your EMF detector? And I said, no. I said, but my co-host and I have found that graves and cemeteries are not usually haunted. Why would you want to stay next to your body in this cemetery if you have a place that you really loved? Wouldn't you
Right.
rather go back to the place you really loved and spend eternity there if you're stuck here? And he goes, oh, that makes sense. That would explain why the sisters and what's his name came back to the house and you don't
Yeah.
see them out where he died or whatever. And I'm like, exactly. They
And-
love this house.
And remember, we did that story about the theater where the lady had lived a long life but had played with this one girl there who died a tragic death at a young age, but yet there's two little girl spirits that they report seeing.
Yep.
And that kind of ties with that, because this was probably a wonderful time in that person's life, and for her spirit to go back not only to the location but to that age. That I think you're exactly right. It's, why would you stick around just where your bones are.
Right.
If your bones are buried and you were put to rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Now if your bones are bricked into the damn wall, that's a different story.
Right. Yeah.
You might be stuck there going, get me out of here.
Yeah, that changes things a little bit.
I died right here. I was murdered here. I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm going to make as much racket until I can get somebody's attention to get my bones out.
Right.
And that makes sense. But, if you had a grave, even if it was an unknown Confederate soldier, because this place was a Confederate hospital.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you may be like, look, I died, serving, at the time, my country, serving the Confederacy, so at least in their minds, they died with some honor. They're not going to be hanging around right there.
Right.
But that's a good segue into this, because I want to talk a little bit about the Civil War ghosts that are often encountered at McRaven House. Not necessarily named individuals, but a lot of these antebellum homes, these battlefields and so forth, because of the tragedy of war, especially the Civil War, it does seem to tie a lot of spirits of these soldiers to certain locations. And remember, the house it had to survive the siege of Vicksburg in 1863, as well as being the field hospital, where not only soldiers were treated, but a lot of them died. And this was some of the most brutal fighting of the conflict. And tragic history always seems to contribute to these hauntings. So it's believed that the energy of that bloody siege and the suffering of the soldiers left a permanent mark on the McRaven House. A lot of local legends suggest that residual hauntings, where these traumatic events they replay almost like echoes in time. But more often, these things occur during anniversaries of the siege or significant Civil War dates, which that's fascinating to me, is when you get near, the time of the anniversary of the siege of Vicksburg, or, very significant parts of the battles, these things tend to ramp up. Makes sense. I mean, it really does. So, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it really is.
All right. So the house's role as a makeshift field hospital, had it seen just countless wounded that were brought in there. And like I said, a lot of them died, and some of them, and this article says reportedly buried on the grounds. Adam has firsthand experience that, yes, some of them were buried right on the grounds. But paranormal investigators and visitors have described apparitions of soldiers wandering both the grounds and the house itself. They said these spirits seem lost, traumatized, or confused, likely due to their violent and abrupt deaths. Witnesses have reported hearing the sounds of phantom boots, cries of pain, or orders being shouted, as if the actions of these soldiers are being replayed in time. And then we get back to these cold spots. They kind of attribute the cold spots to maybe where these soldiers were inside the house. Maybe that's where they were when they died. But again, the cold spots are pretty significant because they come up often. The objects moving on their own, okay? And Adam was talking about the door. Some people say that they have seen uniformed figures appear and then vanish. just like you walk in, there's somebody in that room dressed up like a Confederate soldier, and you look again and they're gone.
That would freak you out, man.
Yeah. So the combination of violent death, the suffering, and these battlefield burials, there's a strong belief around the Vicksburg locals and ghost researchers that these souls of these Civil War era individuals are they stick around because of everything that happened. And guests often mention a heavy, somber feeling that just comes over them in certain rooms, which they feel like this could be the lingering spirits that are unable to move on, from the house. So, it is, like I said, it is quite the haunted place.
Yes, it is.
A lot of activity, and I think it's great that you were able to get down there, Adam, and even experience some of this. I mean, we've taken ghost tours before, and a lot of times you come away with a lot of good stories and not necessarily a lot of good experiences. But,
yeah.
You had the opportunity to get both.
Yeah, I feel like we were very fortunate, not only being able to get in and take the tour, but to actually experience something that they say happens a lot, because a lot of times we've done this stuff and, this happens all the time. Well, then why in the hell is it not happening for me now? If it happens, sometimes I think they go, hey, this guy's going to talk about me on a show. I don't want to do it right now.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to be a part of this guy's circus.
This fool. I don't want him talking about me.
But what do you guys think? I mean, is all this evidence compelling enough to believe that the McRaven House is haunted? I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know Adam thinks it is.
Yes, sir.
But let us know what you think. And the best place to do that is in our Facebook group. It is called The Graveyard. We have thousands of people there just sharing really cool stories, personal experiences, jokes, whatever. It's a good place to go. It's a positive experience there. Nobody's going to make fun of you. We just want to hear your cool stories.
Yep.
Don't forget to check out our website. It is graveyardpodcast.com. There you can find links to purchase Graveyard Tales merchandise. There are some new items in there that you should go check out. Pretty cool. We've got several logos in there you can choose from. But on the website, you can also listen to the show. You can listen to the Graveyard Tales episodes. That is also where you can become a patron. And thank you so much to everyone who has donated to the show. You have no idea how much it means to Adam and myself. That is literally how we keep this show going. And we thank you. For our Patreon members, if you're thinking about it, I think it's a great time because you get a lot of bonus content. Along with that, I mean, you get our heartfelt thanks, but we do try to give you something back, something to be a little bit more of a bang for your buck,
right?
So go check that out. So until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.